that they turned and did you see the video where they turned Anduin evil?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was. She needs to die.
Yeah, we got into it on Grills last night because Ray is kind of a Sylvanas fan, and I haven't gotten the image yet, but I believe the image that's gonna go with that show is gonna be like a picture of me stabbing Sylvanas or chasing her with knives. I was like, my character or me? I'm like, whatever you want to do.
um, I think they're going to redeem her. I think she got lost in it, but I think they'll redeem her. Because lost in it, but I think there's redeem her. Too many fans of Sylvanas, especially after the Horde has really been decimated lately. The Horde has really been.
Go ahead. I was just testing that our audio was going to the stream.
And I think that they're going to redeem her. She's too popular. It'd be like them killing off Jaina at this point. Jaina is way too popular, and killing off Jaina would send off a firestorm of rage.
I'm ready for Jaina to die too. So
back up. Hey.
When I posted I was crying, a friend of mine from back in the day was like, was it Ysera or Jaina? And I'm like, Ysera, oh wow, is Jaina gonna die? And then we rescued her last week. I'm like, oh shit. She's such a whiner.
Ugh. You leave Jaina alone?
Yeah, I know. You love your Jaina.
don't make me call you a harlot.
But the thing with Sylvanas, like, even if she were a more multi-dimensional villain, like to me, she just went too far. It's just so like, okay, well you can't beat death, so nobody can beat death, so everybody has to die. And I wrecked my world. I'm gonna wreck the afterlife. Just everybody just needs to be gone. That kind of obliteration doesn't have any subtlety, and there's no sympathy left. Like, and I was looking for it in the cinematics with Anduin and her face to face. I was looking for like just that little. There's some humanity left in her.
Well, if you look,
sure it's there. Like, there was a brief flash where maybe, but I don't know.
When you looked at when he comes back after the mission, and she sees him.
She does that little side glance.
Well, there's this. Oh God, have I become Arthas? That look in her face. That if you look at it, that's the expression I get. Is oh God, I've become Arthas. And
well, I guess.
So yeah, I think there's going to be some redemption. I think she's realized she's gone too far, because she never wanted to be Arthas. She never wanted to control like that. All of her Forsaken had free will. They had the choices.
Yeah.
So I think this is.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing that Anduin was pointing out to her.
Yeah.
So, but I just.
There are certain characters that can go away and it'll be okay. Like Garrosh, he was fine. He could go away.
Unless she finds a way to plant a new world tree, I'm cool with her just turned.
Well, they still have a world tree. They have the original world tree. It's been healed.
Teldrassil.
Teldrassil was
coming back.
I admit that was
okay. A night elf druid, okay.
I admit that was a bit war crimey. That was a bit war crimey. That was okay. That was right? A lot war crimey.
And then going to Undercity and just killing all her own people, just scorched earthing it.
Yeah, I know.
Ew.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope. He's broken.
I agree. I know. Here's the thing. As much as I am not a Horde player, I do feel some sympathy for them, because this would be the third Horde character the leadership
Oh yeah, it's
character.
hurting them so bad they outnumber Alliance on the entire game. So
Yeah,
yeah, no. And
I
maybe you
mean,
have
yeah.
poor little Manduin, who's now Baduin. Uh,
Oh, he'll be fine. He'll come back. I mean, he's going to have some regrets of the
oh,
things
he's gonna
he's
be
doing,
so
and
messed up.
well, yeah, there's going to be some darkness he's going to have to work through, and that's going to be an interesting path for him. I think they needed to do that. He was way too goody two shoes. They needed to give him something so that he can,
Some depth,
you know,
yeah,
yeah,
because
because
he
I
was
mean,
really
yeah,
sheltered from all the stuff that the rest of them went through.
yeah.
You
All right,
follow
and I have shared.
and I shared too on Facebook and
Woohoo!
Twitter. I got
I
everything
did
all
on
set up
Facebook and
so.
Twitter as well. So
Oh
I told
well,
him, hey,
oops.
15 minutes will be on. We may be alone, but that's fine. Uh,
Okay.
I think,
So I guess I'll push the button. Because
okay.
I need, like, I'd rather be in the Shadowlands sticker on my head all day today. I just kept. It's been a hard day.
I understand. So yeah, my doctor gave me some pain medication. He upped. I'm like, normally he gives me like 7.5. Now he gave me 10 this time,
Mm.
and I'm like, okay, well, whatever works. He's getting me to
He's got
see
to find
a
some actual
neurologist.
solutions for your migraine.
Well, yeah, I'm seeing it. He's putting me in to see a neurologist and everything else. This is just a temporary fix so I can go to work.
Yeah.
I've worked 2 days this month, so
We had people over gardening and they're really safe and kind of expanded our pod into like this little community garden with two friends of ours and a third friend who kind of wanted to do it just messaged me like, do you want some banana bread? And came over and brought us banana bread on Sunday. And then last night I got a message from her saying, a friend of mine at work tested positive.
like, of course they have.
Like, oh my God. And Fletcher had his ACT today. So it's like
Right.
5:30 last night, and I'm messaging the school nurse hoping they can get back to me in time. Like, does this count as exposure? And it doesn't, because he never, like, she stayed outside, and he wasn't even outside when
Right.
she was here. And she gave me banana bread, and it was in the house and everything, but he didn't even eat any of it. And so yeah, I threw the rest of that away, and but she got a rapid test that was negative today, so I'm at least a little less panicky. But boy, I was like, I'm gonna make Fletcher another mask right now.
No, I understand. And I didn't get the numbers. Do you know the numbers off? Let me hold on.
What numbers?
The COVID numbers, the latest COVID numbers.
I think it's just saying over 500,000 is sufficient. That was only 2 days ago, and that was the one that Biden had the moment of silence about. And I saw flags at half mast today. I hope that's what it's for. It was at a particularly right-wing shitty place, so probably not, but if it's something else, I don't want to know.
Yeah, we're at 5. I was trying to see cases. We're at 28.2 million.
Oh.
And we're at 501 now.
Yeah, I don't like looking at cases versus deaths because people keep doing that bullshit where like it's only a small percentage, which like when one of those people, bullshit. For me, the 500 million deaths number is like, think about how many people that is in mourning. Like how many people are mourning for each one of those people.
Well, did you see my post yesterday?
No.
That I posted on Facebook?
I don't think so.
It's basically 1,370 deaths a day, or basically a death a minute.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
and
I saw that.
And then I went off about how Meghan McCain yesterday went off on a tangent about how she doesn't know when the next time she gets to go.
I saw it.
Oh well, that I'm not. It's
And
not
you're probably
her.
going
I'm
to
gonna
talk
be.
about it again in the show. So.
Yeah. So all right. Whenever you're ready.
All right.
Evil is amongst us. Stay back, boy. This calls for divine intervention. I kick ass for the Lord.
Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. Martin Luther King.
Those who, in spite of everything, still choose goodness. Marie Lou, let's talk about the news.
Welcome to Heresy and Hearsay, a podcast to reclaim faith in the context of political discussion. I'm Reverend Barney, and you can follow me on Twitter at SethRothII, and you can follow the show at Heresy and Hearsay, or Heresy and Hearsay 1. And Heresy and Hearsay has a Patreon site where you can find us at patreon.com/heresy and hearsay, where you can visit us and help support the show. Just $2 a month goes a long way to help us make this humble show. And with me today, our intrepid field reporter, September.
Hello, this is September, or 9 of 12, and you can follow me on Twitch or Twitter at 9 of 12. That's NINEOF12. I'm also a co-host of the Geek Grills podcast. Welcome to our new Twitch channel. You can contribute with bits in Twitch or subscribe for free if you have Amazon Prime. You can follow the show on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and any podcast catcher that you like. Just look for Heresy and Hearsay. Please like, share, follow, subscribe, and give us a review. That helps others find us. We also have a website, so you can listen to all of our past shows, as well as find bios about me and Barney. That's at heresyandhearsay.com.
So we're going to kind of clean off some stuff as far as the news that has been kind of piling up on our plates. Like we've been to an all you can eat Golden Corral, and we have to clean off our plates, or else we won't get to go and play at the fountain of chocolate. So we're going to discuss a few things. There's been some news that's happened since then. Texas, I wanted to discuss next week because it's kind of a microcosm of several different things. So I'll be writing up that show, but Texas is something we will discuss next week as far as the snowstorm. But our thoughts and prayers are out for those individuals who are still without power, without water, and hopefully, and if you donate to the Red Cross, there's several places you can go and donate to make sure that you help those that are still in need, especially with their power bills. And that will be something we will also discuss there next week. But I wanted to let you know that we are aware of the Texas thing, and we will be going into a bigger detail about that next week. Because I think it'll cover a lot of topics, both on a political side as well as on a biblical side as well. So let's talk about the trial of the former president of the United States of America, the Orange Mussolini. What was your favorite term for Trump? What was your favorite, September?
I don't know. There's a lot. and I mean, go listen to the Smartest in the World, Man in the World podcast by Greg Proops. And anything in his litany of nicknames was a lot of fun. My kind of the one that stuck with me that I like is there was a meme, because Among Us is a very popular game right now, and they have those little crewmates, and there's the whole, it's a sneaky game where you're sneaking around and everybody doing stuff, and someone is killing people, and you don't know who, and everybody talks and tries to figure it out, who's the bad guy, and it's like they're suspect, they're sus, and it's become even like a term now, like, oh, that's sus, when anything is shifty, and Orange is sus, vote him out, became a trending thing for a while. And that's the thing that kind of sticks with me, to the point that I went to a game night with some Diamond Club people on Friday, and they were playing one last round of it, and I was joking about the Orange is sus and how Linda makes little crocheted crewmates, and I want an orange one just because I mean, we're not done with Trump pissing me off, and I could have one to throw against the wall because Orange is sus. And then at the end of that round, they seriously ended up ejecting Orange.
Was it the orange one that was the one that was
It
doing
was,
it?
and they were right. It was the bad guy.
That's hilarious. That's great. So I think the Cheeto Bambito and the orange Mussolini,
A mango
uh,
Mussolini.
yeah, the mango Mussolini, and there was one about the Fanta. What was it? The Fanta something was another one that I really
Fanta
liked.
fascist.
There was so many, but so his trial for the impeachment, of course, didn't. He wasn't impeached because, of course, because there are Republicans involved and they have the spines of jellyfish. What surprised me is the senator. We have two Republican senators, and admittingly, the Republican senator that voted to convict is retiring this year because he's under a lot of scrutiny for a lot of shady stuff anyway. So he probably figures he doesn't have a chance anyways. But he voted to convict, which I was kind of surprised about. I didn't think, even though he wasn't going to be, in the Senate in 2 years, I didn't think he would vote for convict because, he still wants a cushy job as a, Republican individual. And I am finding more and more surprisingly how many people still bow to the feet of Trump right now. I'm shocked at it, but we will be putting up links of the takeaways of the day-to-day trials. There's also, we'll be posting the videos. I know September watched the video, what was like 18 minutes of the video of basically the timeline.
Yeah.
And that is a harrowing video to watch.
I mean, granted, it was, edited together to do that and in that way and have that impact. However, it was very, very difficult because there was so much, especially even on the left, of media we were exposed to where it looked like the police were helping, which is, there is more news about that. That's not untrue. But the level of violence that was taking place, I don't want to hear any shit about the liberal media anymore, just making it look bad, because these were videos that were collected by the legal teams that had all these, they were from different people's phones and all different sources, and it was so much more ugly and violent and cultish, and the chanting and specifically saying like the president sent us, things that we didn't see in the mainstream media at all, about how ugly and hateful and violent it really was.
Well, and also those videos that you saw of Officer Goodman and how many other people he actually saved.
Yeah.
That
point of view on his efforts was like, because he was taunting them away from the door, and they were just, like they were gonna fall off and go ahead and go in the chamber, and he would like taunt them again, and we're gonna take all of us on. Somebody screamed at him.
Yeah.
Oh, what a brave soul he is.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, he was a single officer, and he was a black man, and he was playing on their racism, and he used that to his advantage to where he could get to a point of where he could get them away from the Senate. He was risking his life. If they could have actually got to him, I don't even want to think about it. But yeah, and that it was not easy to watch. I watched the only thing I didn't watch is I didn't watch some of the more graphic videos because I can handle a lot of stuff. But at some point, you know, even I have to go, all right, look, I have mental health I have to deal with, and I need to sleep at night. And I am not a juror, so I don't have to sit and watch this. So it's one of those situations where I'm just like, okay, time out. I'm going, but I watched most of the trial. It would be like after work or something like that. And so I work my day job doing customer service. And then at night, I'm sitting here watching 7 to 8 hours of trial. And I'm sure that was not healthy for me, but I watched it and I'm just like, I know why Mitt Romney voted to convict, because he was one of the people they were after. If they would have got hold of Mitt Romney, it would have not been pretty. And Officer Goodman, that was one of the videos that we had not seen until the trial, is that Officer Goodman was running away towards the action, and he let Mitt Romney know, is like, you need to get away. Here they come. And him and whoever he was with, I think he was with a bodyguard or something, they jetted the other way to get Romney to safety. And there was a couple of people like that were just like inches, minutes, footsteps away from danger. And it could have been so much worse. And the thing is that the timeline, they had their phones. They had it where when Trump tweeted about that Pence didn't have the backbone to do what he needed to do, they saw it on their phones and they reacted to it at the Capitol.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of those things where you go, how can you not? And of course, then I've talked about the ladies of the Congress, but the gentlemen in the Senate are we have not given them enough time. So let's talk about Senator Hawley, who is technically from the state of Missouri, though he doesn't actually live there. But there's a loophole in the system as long as he owns property there. And it's a long story, but he technically lives in Virginia. So the chamber is open so that they can spread out and, for safety and whatever. And as well as basically the upper tier of the chamber, which gallery. Which in normal everyday time, the public is allowed to go and watch Senate proceedings. It's one of those things. You're allowed to watch the Senate when it's in session and we're not in the middle of a pandemic. You're allowed to watch these things, the Senate do its job. As long as you're quiet, not disruptive, or whatever the case may be. So he was the only one up there, and he was basically stretched out, feet in another chair, reading, I don't know. He wasn't reading any of the notes that they had given him. He wasn't paying attention. He wasn't looking. And he was the only one up there doing that. And, I mean, there was other senators.
I don't know that I'm willing to go that far. I mean, I read about this, too. He obviously got a briefing. He had they all had their little packets of what was going to be going on, who's being called when, as far as, you could organize in the proceedings. And he said that's what he was reading. And even though people were criticizing because it didn't seem like he was paying attention, he was going through notes. And there was no point of view where any photographic or video evidence has been able to see what he was reading to contradict that. That's an assumption.
Yes, and I'm going, you know what? I'm going to jump to that assumption because I'm allowed. I'm a human
yes,
being.
you are. I'm just being the level-headed one, and I am about truth. And if I'm going to be about truth, I'm not going to accuse somebody of something I can't prove.
I understand. Here's the thing.
He's an asshole. Sure.
Yeah.
And maybe he should have been down in the gallery. But...
looking at the preponderance of the evidence, and looking at how he has reacted to the stuff in the past, it is more of an educated guess than it is of I'm jumping to conclusions. that he was not paying attention.
Okay. I mean, he was there.
Yeah, well, I know,
Can't say that
and
for
a lot
everyone.
a lot of senators didn't show up for the third day. There was like 15 to they did. There was a number between 15 and 17. It's like you don't know how many senators didn't show up. It'd be kind of nice to know, but they said there was a number of senators that didn't show up on day 3. And I'm like, well, yeah, okay, that's fine. It's not that big of a deal. They're not, okay.
Yeah.
But I also, so what did you think of Trump's lawyers? What did you think of Trump's lawyers?
Holy shit. What a bunch of incompetent ambulance chasers. I mean, and literally, because they are people that had been in parts of suits against him before. So, I mean, what kind of completely, bereft of conscience attorneys they had.
And one of them was an AG for the state of Pennsylvania, correct? I'm not wrong in this, or they were an AG of part of Pennsylvania, because he was the one that refused to try Bill Cosby. So he was an AG of something at some point in Pennsylvania. And he was the guy that was the lead that basically rambled on about his parents listening to records of another senator. How did he get the job of being AG? I'm just like, I was watching that, and there's an old George Carlin clip that kept playing in the back of my head, of where he said, somewhere in America, there is someone who has an appointment with a doctor who graduated at the bottom of their class. And I'm thinking, this guy must have graduated bottom of the class as a lawyer. How did you become an AG? Who did you pay off? Did people just not pay attention? I'm just curious.
Well, yeah, people don't pay attention to elections, unfortunately.
Oh, well, yeah, we have found that out, haven't we?
Yeah. But there's a whole cultural shift where, people are ready to believe alternative facts, and they figure you can get on that bandwagon. I think, just like in a lot of professions, but I think lawyers in particular can often be prone to getting into it because they like the game. Just like a lot of politicians. They're in it for power, like McConnell, no matter how you have to play. I think attorneys have a lot of them. I mean, I know some fantastic people who happen to also be attorneys, but a lot of, especially trial lawyers, I think tend to be in it for the game. It's
right.
The winning. It's that ambition. It's that competitiveness, and these seem to be those kind of people. Like, they don't care what the stakes are, and they don't have that kind of conscience that. I mean, I know attorneys who only take cases that are of good conscience, like work specifically on unemployment cases and civil cases, and and then civil rights cases or that kind of thing. This isn't those people.
No, and that that
anybody
5,000
who would work for Trump right now as an attorney, obviously, how many attorneys has left him?
Yeah, I know. Well,
like, this is indefensible. I'm out.
Yeah, even I, a lawyer, am out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, wow, that's okay. That's a shot. You have actual morals. I'm, because there's the jokes about lawyers, and I'm just like, wow, okay, well, okay.
Yeah.
And of course, then there was that, 65,000 hour video. I'm sorry, the 10-minute fight video. For those who don't know, part of their crux of their argument is the video that we talked about earlier. They said, well, that video was edited, and they didn't show the whole story of the conversations and everything. And so they'd show the whole video of Trump saying ridiculous things, and then going on saying less ridiculous things that he'd say in the same speech. And then they played a 10-minute video of Democrats saying nothing but the word fight. And I'm going, you've
Oh, it's so brain dead.
You've undermined your entire. Okay, fine. What?
Right? You put some house music behind it, right? Fight,
Yeah.
fight.
Yeah.
Oh
Like,
wow! Everybody will like vote to let him go now. Yeah.
like it was just it was unbelievable. I watched them, and they were only there for one day. Now and then it was over, and I'm just like, now the fifth day there was a lot of wrangling, and I didn't understand it about they were going to call witnesses, and then they decided again, and they got the vote to call witnesses, and then they decided against calling witnesses because there was a deal made.
Yeah.
And I don't know exactly what the deal was, and I'm going, oh, I'm confused.
Okay,
Okay.
so that's just like any other vote in the House, in the Senate, in the leaders of the majority and minority. They know who's going to vote what way. They do a lot of committee meetings and this and that, but they've got an idea of who's going to vote what way, and they know what's going to change. What they're looking for. Like, I need this. Like they would tell Pelosi, they would tell McConnell, they tell whoever. Like, if this comes out, if this is my sticking point, I would change my vote. If not, here's where I'm voting. They already know how that's going to go. So they knew the list of people they wanted to call as witnesses, and they knew what evidence they had. So it was a matter of, are we going to allow this to be presented so that the whole public can see all of it, rather than take, because the time to get actual depositions and everything is difficult. But these people have all been spoken to, and it was a quick matter of, all right, we need to get more on the floor because we don't have the votes yet to to win this thing. So we want to call witnesses, and it's like, and then the chamber voted to call witnesses, but then the lawyers get together and they're like, all right, hey, we know we have these votes and they're not going to change their mind, and they know who the witnesses are, and they don't care, and they're not going to change their mind. So it was a matter of, do we continue to waste the time of our government on this proceeding when we know how the vote's going to turn out, when we have a stimulus bill to pass?
Right.
Like, the administration, the new administration was, I understand very much, they understand what's going on, and they were on board with, what, it's not going to change anything, so we don't need to do this because we have more important shit to do right now. And hopefully, I mean, there's enough criminal and civil allegations against him, and now that he can be prosecuted, if any of those is federal, he'll be prevented from holding office again anyway. And
Right.
that's really the only thing that the continued impeachment could have enacted. He can't be removed from office because he's already out of office. So all they could have done was prevented him from running for office again. And the hope of getting that done in that particular session was it wasn't going to happen. So they decided basically to, all right, well, let's just shut this down. Let's just finish it, and let the courts decide how that goes. Like, that was their only recourse to keep him from holding office again. It wasn't going to happen in our Senate.
Okay. So that was, I understood that at least one of the testimonies actually got into the record, and that was the only thing that I understood, is that they allowed testimony to be put into the record that wasn't a deposition, and I think that was it. I understood that part too.
Yeah. So.
But I do want to say, because we are a fair and balanced, we like to mention those that we may not agree with on policy when they do something that is justified, that we call them out. So there were 7 senators that did vote to convict, and that was Senator Bill Cassidy from Louisiana, Susan Collins from Maine, Lisa Murkowski from Alaska, Mitt Romney from Utah, which I was not going to be surprised at, Bill Sass from Nebraska, Pat Toomey from Pennsylvania, and Richard Burr from North Carolina. Now, what was surprising and what kind of then infuriated me is right afterwards they did a bunch of speeches, and then Mitt Romney says, like, not Mitt Romney, Mitch McConnell then's like, well, in his turtly voice, that while he wasn't going to vote, to convict, he did believe that Trump was part of it and that he should be arrested.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the whole, he's going to have his cake and eat it too. And of course, then Trump got mad about that. Of course he did. But on the same thing, Trump is also going to be at CPAC. And do we want to watch that speech? Do we want to cover that speech, or can we just... I don't know. Anyways, we'll discuss that later. But so here's the thing. You're right. Right now, the New York AG just got Trump's taxes. And I think those are going to be some damning pieces of evidence. And I think Trump Jr. and Eric may be seeing some jail time, because I don't think their lawyers are going to be able to talk them out of that. And it could be a lot of jail time.
We'll see.
We'll see what happens.
I mean, the problem with that, it depends what they did. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in the history of that whole family and how they made their fortune, that tax evasion.
Yeah.
So that's one thing, but there's no such thing as debtor's prison anymore. So, I mean, if they can pay it and amend it, but you can only amend returns for so long, it's very... There aren't a lot of criminal things that, unless they have a different paper trail.
Well, that's the thing. That's what they got Capone on.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. A lot has changed.
I know, but here's the thing. Sometimes you have to get a. And I'm not saying Trump is a murderer, but there's some. That's our next story.
There's a lot of evidence out there that I'd like to see it on treason or espionage charges. Frankly, I mean, there were things he's no longer in office, but it looks like his campaign before he was elected was colluding with other countries, and
I know.
Maybe there's something can be done there too.
I know. I understand. And I would like to see that too, but I will take anything. I'll be just perfectly honest. As long as there's some kind of punishment to where he is away.
I don't know. I have very mixed feelings, because the whole culture of the politics in our country has been fed poison for so long, and he's, as a figurehead and being elected at all, was a result of just too many things that are wrong, and he has these followers for very deep-seated reasons. It's not just him, and vilifying him doesn't necessarily help change the trajectory of the damage to our democracy and to our republic, and how it operates, and people not respecting facts. I mean, there's a lot of work to be done that it may be a distraction from. So anything that is just something simply to keep him from running so that even the Republican Party can recover is enough for me.
Yeah, no, I agree, and that's what I'm saying.
They need to shame him. I wish the party would break from him. And they can't, and they won't, because people like Mitch only look at their next election, and that's been going on way too long. They've been fighting and winning the whole war for just making incumbency stronger since, holy shit, since before Nixon. They've been,
yeah,
that's been their whole strategy. So, yeah.
And that is something that we, after next week, I'm hoping that we can definitely do a dive into where this all came from, as far as the poisoning of the well, when it came to our national discourse, when it comes to the political discussion, and if there are any answers or what we can do. because we both can say this and we can both be pretty honest about it. At least in my mind, I can trace it back to at least the moral majority, and that was Reagan. And that was 1980. And that has been 40 plus years. And so there's no instant fix for 40 plus years of poisoning the well. And if you're saying Nixon, that's an additional, 20 plus years on top of that? That's an entire 2 generations of voters, almost.
Yeah, well, that was a lot of really wonky stuff we don't have time to go into about map drawing and political strategies that's different than the public discourse change. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff. Actually, man, read Obama's autobiography. He lays a lot of that out, interestingly enough.
Okay. Well, I should probably pick that up. My my new Audible renewal will come up, and I'll probably pick that up and listen to it.
Oh,
So,
there you go. And I understand he reads the Audible himself.
oh, that would be lovely. His lovely
Right?
voice. It'd be a nice change than every time I
I was almost sad when I learned that I don't do audiobooks.
Yeah, that'd be a nice change from the past 40 years of hearing Trump's voice. It'd be, oh, that's what a person sounds like when they know what they're saying. Oh, how beauty. Anyways, so we crossed a very grim milestone on Sunday, and we're at 501,000 deaths of the coronavirus. The New York Times broke it down. So that's basically 1,300 averaging out over the past, deaths didn't start until April. So the past 10 months, 11 months, averaging it out, it would be 1,370 deaths a day, roughly 57 deaths an hour, or roughly 1 death a minute. That's 1 death every minute. Snapped out, just like that. Yesterday, there was a commentator, and people know who it is, and I'm not bringing their name up again because they've already had their thing. The reason I'm bringing up what they've, not so much who they are, but the fact that this has been in the zeitgeist, and I want to bring this up, is that I understand. Look, I've been on lockdown. I go to the grocery store and I come home. I go and do the minimal things I need to do on a daily basis. What I have to do. I work from home right now. I'm blessed to be able to do that right now. I have been out exactly 4 times, I can count, where I have sat down, where we've had a slightly dip in our stuff, and we've been able to sit down and have dinner in a restaurant that was safe and secure. And I've done it exactly 4 times this year. 4 times. I have not been in a movie theater since this started. I love movies. I have not seen a concert live in this entire time. I've not seen a comedy show live with people. There are people that I have not seen in almost a year. This has started since last March. And to have people complaining that we don't know when we're going to be able to do this just yet, because all the data is not in, and because all of the information is in, they need to sit down and they need to be quiet. Because until we are safe, I don't want us to reopen. There are people, I have not seen September in over almost a year face to face. September is a dear friend of mine, and I love spending time with her. I love us hanging out and chatting. And we would love to be able to sit down and chat more because we have a lot of fun together when we chat. She has a glass of wine. I have a glass of scotch, and we sit down and talk about the show or anything, and we have a great time. We have not been able to do that yet. because of this pandemic. And I miss seeing September's face and hearing her laugh live and her smile. And it sucks. Okay? But we have to wait. Because I also don't want to make her sick or her family sick. And just because you're tired doesn't mean the rest of the nation isn't also tired. And we've said this before. There are 500,000 people who have died.
Yeah, where are you getting
Like
that
that.
number? Can I ask?
Huh? What?
Where are you getting that number? Because I mean, President Biden too the other day was saying went over 500,000, but it's just under that according to the CDC. So
These are the number. When I pulled up the COVID number, this was what was the New York Times data.
yeah, the actual CDC is reporting 498,993 deaths in the U.S. But the good news is cases are going down, vaccinations are going up.
Yes.
Biden is exceeding his promised trajectory, even though he was handed absolutely no plan to get these vaccinations rolled out.
I agree.
Which is
I have
awesome.
noticed that because I get a daily ting, not from here in the North Carolina area, but I get it from the Boston. Boston gives me. I have a alert from the Boston Herald because I have them as one of the papers I have that I follow, and they send out a daily update. And I've noticed that their cases have gone down, the deaths have gone down considerably. Because I think at the beginning of January, at the middle of January, is like 4,000 cases, and they're down to like less than 2,000.
Mm-hmm.
It's been consistent, so I do see that. As far as the death toll is concerned, it's that I'm going by the data that I see here that's right in front of me, which was I pulled it up and it's the New York Times. So
I just thought it was weird that the CDC isn't reporting quite as many as other sources somehow, because it's generally how people get it. It was just kind of weird.
I don't know. That is weird. So
who knows?
But
there's so much going on.
There's dates where we could start seeing some change. I'm in group 4, so it's going to be a while before I get a vaccine.
And that's another thing. I can't get it.
Because of some of the stuff that's in it?
No. And I don't want to hear that shit from anybody. Because
no,
there's not stuff in this vaccine that's like people are horribly allergic to. It's just not how vaccines work anymore. No, because I have autoimmune disease.
Oh, that's right.
And my most recent bout of a flare-up that I had during the election was my skin broke out, kind of like all over my body. I had hives on my palms, and my personal position was like with the things like hives and skin reactions. I mean, I've had arthritis in my eye. When I got my flu shot, I got a lot of joint pain, and I go ahead and I do that because I know how to manage those flare-ups. But this recent flare-up I had in October, that kind of hives and skin thing is so close to anaphylaxis.
Right.
As a reaction that I can't. I should probably stop getting any vaccines entirely. Which is rough. I'm glad I got the shingles. I may stop getting flu vaccines because, I mean, autoimmune stuff, sometimes it progresses. My immune system is stupid. I mean, I get a flare-up after I have a cold sometimes. If there's a virus in my body and my immune system's reacting, it just kind of keeps going and attacks me. And with this being these mRNA viruses, or vaccines attack the protein coding of the virus. I mean, they're not even putting the virus in your body, but it works so differently as well. That it's kind of not worth the risk for me of a severe reaction that could cause death or paralysis to get the vaccine. So, I mean, I want everyone else to get it so I can be safer. And as soon as, my family can get it, I hope they get it. There's going to be a long-term effect in this country and millions of people, including my daughter, who had COVID, and she's a long hauler. We don't even know. This disease affects everyone so differently. My doctor offered me hydroxychloroquine. Now, don't laugh because it's not, even though Trump said it, because he is an idiot. We know he's an idiot, but it's not completely bonkers to use something like that as a prophylactic. I've been given anti-malarials before.
Right.
In different situations where I was going to be exposed to something, I've been given, or I was having a really nasty autoimmune flare up. I've been given antibiotics that they use for anti-malarial that made me sun sensitive, and I, couldn't go outside for a while. So, I mean, I was offered that as a prophylactic against COVID, and I'm just like, I'll just keep staying home. Uh,
No,
so,
I understand that.
long haulers.
No,
I wish
I just thought,
I don't think the stimulus we have is gonna be the last one, because I think, well, we need to have a whole overhaul of our medical system anyway, or at least an expansion of the Affordable Care Act. And I hope that COVID, along with research into autoimmune diseases, because that's one of the things that autoimmune diseases, mental health crises have been aggravated by people getting COVID and how their body reacts to it and how their brain reacts to it. We've got a long haul as a country here, regardless of, I don't want to hear from anybody about that. Oh, it's only this really small percentage that dies. Go to hell. Because if you know one of those people, it's not just a statistic anymore, and it completely discounts millions, literally, of people who are suffering and will be for a very long time with this disease.
well, and it's not just that. It's just what you said. We don't know what it does to people. We don't know. We don't know the long-term effects of this disease and what it can do to someone's brain functions or someone's lung functions or anything of that nature. We just don't know. And because there hasn't been any studies about it, because this is a brand new thing. It's kind of like the flu. When it came about, we didn't know what it would do to people in the long term. Luckily, it didn't do anything, but we don't know at this point. And so someone who may have gotten it, it may shorten their lifespan. We just don't know at this point. And the thing is, with the way the US's healthcare system is set up right now, luckily, there's no there's no, when you had something and they can say you can't get healthcare. What is that called? What was that called? I can't remember.
Condition.
My brain. I'm sorry.
Pre-existing condition.
Thank you. Pre-existing condition. So at least we don't have that right now, but
yeah, well, that was a bigger step than a lot of people realize, and that's a bipartisan, and everyone's on board with. We don't want that to come back, but boy, sometimes these bastards keep trying to sneak it in. Hopefully they can never sneak back in that basically being a woman is a pre-existing condition, so there's that.
Yeah, so
let's not let the insurance companies take back our health from us.
Yeah. But that is one of those things that we need to worry about. And the thing is, right now, they are working on the stimulus for the COVID. Is it stuck? Last I heard, it wasn't. But Manchin is pulling some stuff, and I'm worried about Manchin.
Yeah, that's a little rough.
Because he's pulling a thing with one of Biden's, one of his nominees, and I'm just worried that he is going to want to wave his Manchin-y around, and because he can, because I don't know what his problem is.
Mm-hmm.
Other than he wants to be a Democrat and a Republican at the same time. He's not in a state that can afford not to have the stimulus. He is in West fucking Virginia. They've already been devastated by the by COVID, by the opioid addiction, by coal. He should be like on board as like, give us all the money. Give us more money. I don't know why he's. Anyways, so he may be a bit of an issue, but hopefully he won't be. with that being said, so that's what we're waiting on right now. Is they're working on that and trying to get that through. Some of the Republicans are like, well, it's just too much money, and I'm like, I don't care. You have no problems giving rich people tax cuts, and you really don't have a problem with buying brand new tanks. Republicans, just think you're buying tanks and just sign off on it. It'll be fine. It'll be okay. Just think you're buying tanks for everybody. Think you're putting a tank in everybody's front yard. It'll be okay. I'm pretty sure that some of the crazier Republicans will be like, "Oh, we're getting tanks? Well, in that case, let me sign right up." They won't. They're not getting tanks, but it'll be great. But just lie to them. I mean, it'll be fine. Whatever it takes to get them on board. We don't need them on board, but whatever. Just get this through. People need the money. People are hurting. People need more than $1,400, but I will take the $1,400. Mm-hmm. You will take the $1,400 times 2, times 3, times whatever. You'll take as much money as possible, to help you out and help everybody else out. And I know that, and that's fine. So I guess that both of us will probably be working on the Jeff Jackson Senate when he's running for Senate in 2022, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Because there are rumors that a Trump may want to run for Senate in North Carolina.
Yep, that's been around for a while. God, jeez. All right, we'll see. We'll see.
Well, even if she doesn't run, so who we're talking about? We're talking about Laura. Yeah, this is Eric's wife, and she is a TV producer, and she supposedly is from North Carolina and lives in North Carolina.
Right, from Wilmington.
Go ahead.
From Wilmington is where she was born.
Okay.
I don't know where her residence in North Carolina is now. And there's been a little talk about that, whether she's actually eligible to run, but they have several residences, so she probably just maintained one here and can do this.
Yeah. It's another one of those loopholes that I really don't... It just like what we were talking about, Josh Hawley. Josh Hawley technically has a residence in Missouri that he technically owns, so he has a residence there, but he lives most of the time in Virginia. So that I know, like in I think it was Massachusetts, because there was a big thing with Mitt Romney where he had a residence in Massachusetts and he had a residence in Utah, and he spent most of the time in Utah for a change instead of Massachusetts. And when he was running for governor in Massachusetts, there's this rule in Massachusetts: you have to live a certain amount of days, like physically live there, for them to consider you to be able to run for office in that state.
Right.
And I think that should be something we should do here in North Carolina too.
Yeah.
So that we don't, because we're above anything else, and I'm going to use this term, and so we don't have carpetbaggers coming in here and trying to be senators.
Yeah.
Now, for the most part, we don't have that problem, to be fair. Mm-hmm.
Oh, no, there's plenty of it. But regardless, so the way you had put this in our notes is like, why here? Do you want an answer for that? There's plenty of answers for that.
Yeah.
North Carolina is purple.
I know.
Burr's seat was almost taken. You want to go back to why did he vote for impeachment? Well, he's got nothing to lose because he's not running again. Maybe he wanted to retire with a clear conscience, but it paves the way for this. It could have been very much on purpose to drive the red folks here into a frenzy of voting and trying to secure his seat for another Republican is why. Because he would rile them up because they vote in anger.
And because she has the name Trump, that they would be voting for her.
Yes. Lindsey Graham said it out loud as soon as that vote came in. Oh,
I don't
well,
know.
looks like Trump. It looks like Lara Trump's gonna get that seat now.
Yeah, I heard Lindsay say that, and
And that makes perfect political sense. So
it
it's
does.
not like he turned over a leaf and did something good for a change. It could. I have no reason to think that that wasn't planned for that reason, because they almost lost that seat.
Yeah, they almost. Here's the thing. Yeah, they almost lost. Not Burr's seat,
T-
but they almost lost. Um, what
Tillis's
is his
seat.
name?
Tillis's
Who
seat.
was? Yeah, they almost lost Tillis's seat because if it hadn't have been that scandal that happened like two
Yeah.
weeks before
Mm-hmm.
early voting started, you know,
Yeah.
if it had happened in the summer, I think that would have faded, but it was so fresh at that point. I was like, and because of the fact that we had John Edwards happen in this state is not going to put up with that.
Yeah.
I think I said that then.
And because we're in
If
the
it,
South, but you know.
mm, I'm sorry.
And because we're in the South.
Yeah, I think we're a little more forgiving of that, especially with Trump. But I in general, but how skeezy it was with John Edwards, especially with his wife Elizabeth, who was so loved,
Mm-hmm.
and the fact that she was dying of cancer. I think that really just put just this horrible taste, and a lot of people, especially a lot of Democrats.
Mm-hmm.
I held my nose and voted for him, but it was like, one of those things where it's like, I can't believe you did this, especially with the fact that we have the ghost of John Edwards in that situation. And a lot of Democrats was like, no, I'm not going to do that because of that fact.
Okay.
So I think honestly, if you look at it, that's how I see that. But yeah, no, I agree. I see what you're saying, and it's just going to be a tough hill. But there is always hope and everything else.
I love Jeff.
Yeah, and we will. Yeah, I've been
I'll
following
support
him,
Jeff
and
Jackson.
we will definitely. We are going now that he has officially declared. At this point, can I am going to say this for the show that Heresy and Hearsay hereby uh, he is our candidate for senator of the state of North
Oh yeah,
Carolina.
I'll endorse Jeff all day long. As a
Yes.
matter of fact, I'm really slacking because about 2 weeks ago I got an email from his team, and I'm supposed to send them my resume, and I haven't.
Uh,
I'm having imposter syndrome about it.
Stop. You're really good at your job, so do
Eh,
it.
yeah, yeah. They don't know what uh, positions they need to fill right now, but he's already doing town halls, so I should probably get on the stick if I want to do this.
Yes, you should. And if he needs a faith advisor, let me know. I'll be more than happy to assist.
There we go.
Anyways, so before we get to our carrot and stick, Brother Bowie, will you lead us in a word of prayer?
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
So I love this story, and I wanted this to be our carrot this week. In Denver, they have been sending, in a pilot program, healthcare teams to non-criminal police calls, like 911 calls, and it has been saving lives. This pilot program has like a team of social workers and paramedics, and the success has been fantastic. It's called the STAR program, Support Team Assisted Response. It was launched in June to help vulnerable people get the help they need. So in the course of 6 months, they responded to 748 calls, calls like mental health crises, and excuse me, they've been tracking the progress, see how it's go, and they put out this report. and it's working. Um, the calls will be like for trespassing, unwanted person, a welfare check, and from uniformed officers asking for assistance in ongoing matters. There were 34% of these calls were assist calls from officers already engaged in an incident. So they're working together with police officers to, I mean, de-escalate, get people help they need, and it's, people aren't just making assumptions, shooting, and this kind of training. This is what we mean by defund the police.
Mm-hmm.
Move that funding around, give programs like this. This pilot program will let other cities who want to do this kind of thing, they realize what they need. They need more, people, I'm sure, to do these, behavioral assessments, whatever, but whether it's, blankets and first aid things, it's kind of this baseline, and I am glad that Denver took these steps and is getting us the data we need so we can reform this whole system and help more people than hurt them.
Right. And I understand that the defund the police is not the best terminology. It's catchy, but you're correct. This is exactly what we mean by it. It's reallocating the funds, demilitarizing the police force to where, and making it more to where it's just, where it's more neighborhood policing, and where you have the social workers and you have these other programs to where you handle the problem at the root core instead of having to deal with the criminal side of it at the top.
Yeah, and I love that officers are buying into the program and cooperating. And part of the defunding, like, we want to put funds in other places because, I mean, looking at stats on these calls, 61% of these individuals encountered were identified as having a mental health issue, or when they got initial contact and a behavioral assessment, and 33% also having co-occurring conditions like homelessness, like substance abuse. So that's an awful lot of, that's most of our 911 calls are, if we have preventative services, we have places for people to get help with these problems, then you at least don't have the co-occurring conditions that lead to this kind of escalation where you even need to get law enforcement involved. So, yeah.
Right. I agree. And I think that's how that goes. So on to our stick. And Sister Franklin, what do you think about our stick?
Don't you blaspheme in here. Don't you blaspheme in here.
Yes. So Father Frank Pavone, Pavone, he is a Catholic father, a YouTuber, and a MAGA supporter. And he basically came out and called out the individuals who voted for impeachment, the Republicans, and he basically called them out. And basically what I want to do is I am going to quote him. So give me a second here, because I do want to pull it up exactly, because I don't want to misquote the good father, because that would be rude of myself. And make sure this is still up, because it may not be. It seems to be still up. To the senators, big mistake. We're all privileged to live through one of the greatest president administrations ever. Didn't you notice? And then hashtag MAGA. And I have a few things to say. First off, you are a Catholic priest. You are not supposed to be political, except about abortion, but that is the Catholics' thing. Secondly, as someone who has studied under Catholic teachings, though I'm not Catholic myself, but I do understand the breakdown of Catholic rules. And one of them is that the Pope is infallible. And the Pope has spoken out multiple times against Trump. So if you are saying, if you're going against the Pope, does that mean that you're going against the infallibility of the Pope? which means that you're going against the Catholic Church, which isn't that basically wrong and a sin in the Catholic Church? And don't you need to do some confession? My point is that you're a Catholic priest who's supposed to be teaching about compassion and love and respect. And the Catholic Church has embraced other faiths, has embraced race, has abolished, or not abolished, but has spoken multiple times against racism. And your greatest president ever has been nothing but that. So you need to decide what you are. You're either a Catholic priest, which means you need to move yourself away from the church. Away from President Trump, and re-find out what your faith actually is, or you need to remove yourself from the priesthood because you are not being a priest. And you grew up Catholic. Am I wrong if a priest speaks out against the Pope? That's like wrong in all respects?
It's changed a little here and there over the years. The Pope is seen as the infallible leader of the church, so there's that.
Right.
But, he could be defrocked, but that's a whole process. And that would have to start more locally. It's similar to government in that way.
Yeah, I know. It has to go through the bishop and then the archbishop. And then, yeah. I'm one of the things I had to learn is how the hierarchy and all of that kind of stuff works. I was like, but I'm not Catholic. Well, fine, whatever. Like, it's just, it's all right. We don't have
shocked in the early 90s, and I went to a multi-denominational service, and there was a Catholic priest there speaking when the AIDS quilt was visiting and being accepting of the LGBT community at the time. So I was like, oh man, you're getting excommunicated, but it doesn't really just work that way.
No, it does take some work, but I'm just saying, I do understand that point, but here's the thing.
And it's not something you go to confession for. You were talking about that. That's not that at all. That's sins against, God. That's not... You don't sin against the Pope. He's the infallible voice of God, but he's not God. That's a common misconception people have about Catholics. They're like, they worship the Pope, and that's not the case at all. The Pope is a servant. He's the voice.
Well, I didn't know exactly how that played out as far as a priest is concerned. If you're stepping out against him, if I didn't know if that was sinning against God. I wasn't thinking he was sinning against the Pope. I thought, but okay.
No, it's just he's the infallible voice. As far as if there's error on doctrine type thing, he's the final word. He's Peter, right? Is
right.
The legacy,
but
it's not a. I'm trying to think of the word. It's not an actual. It's not as if he's venerated or it doesn't have godhood.
Right. Okay. But even with that, it's that kind of nationalism that got the church into trouble back in the 30s and 40s, anyways.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's stepping into that F word, that we've discussed multiple times.
Yeah.
So he needs to be watched, as far as that's concerned, because he's leading his flock down the wrong path. With that being said, this is the end of our show. Next week we will do a deep dive and look into policy and religious parts of the whole debacle of the freezing of Texas. So when Texas froze, what did that do as far as on the political side of the spectrum? And
as hell indeed frozen over.
It did, yeah. I know. It's one of those things. Yeah, hell did it, because I lived in Texas and it was miserable. And it was miserable in Texas. And I suggest if you ever live in Texas, don't. It's not fun. It's actually not a bad place. I had a bad experience. I got a lot
of really cool friends that live in Austin area.
I lived in Dallas, so I had to deal with a lot of. I actually did get to. True story. I did get to go and visit the. Now this was in the mid 2000s, so I visited the Texas Ranger. That's where their center is, and no lie, they had Chuck Norris singing the entire time you're in their museum. And I'm like, why are you doing this to people? I thought you wanted people to look at your museum. Why do you have Chuck Norris singing the Walker Texas Ranger theme?
Okay.
Which is the Ranger song,
popular.
which is the Texas Ranger song, but
Yeah.
you could have anyways. But yeah, but no, I was not thrilled with Texas. Also, my father was a
Tangenting
Washington.
while we're trying to wrap up the show, Barney.
Daniel's going to shut up now. So, anyways, sorry. Thank you, September, for keeping me in line. We are wrapping up the show. Next week, we'll talk about Texas. Thank you for joining us at Heresy and Hearsay. I'm Reverend Barney, and you can follow me on Twitter at Seth Roth II. You can also find the show on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and any podcast catcher. You can also find our website. Just Google us. Don't forget our Patreon site, where $2 a month can keep this show going.
And I'm September. You can follow me on Twitch and Twitter at 9 of 12 and hear me on the Geek Grills podcast. Thanks for listening today, and bless your hearts.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Okay. Do, and